to the saw is about 9 feet. And then from, I guess what is the door, so about another 5 feet. So that's almost 14 total feet of workable room. So the door going to the bathroom though still needs to open, and I don't really want it to just hit right there. I'd like to have it go all the way back. I think I have just made up my mind. Gonna run that closest to the door and leave that extra space open. So the height of the saw right now is about 41 inches, and I'd like to keep it there. I like it a little bit higher because I'm a taller guy, and I think I want to have that the whole length. So drawers down below and probably cabinets up top, maybe with some cubbies up there too, is gonna be what I'm going for. Now, as far as the depth, the height of the cabinets, in terms of how tall I'm going, all those other fine details, I'm probably gonna have to work out on the computer when I design this whole thing up. So we have our rough dimensions, we have the height, and we have kind of the rough idea of what we're going for. So with that said, let me jump onto the computer and see what I can come up with. You can see I have a row of 6 boxes here and then 2 on this side, with that door being able to swing right here. Hey Sam, I just had a quick question for you. I was wondering if you had any of the Festool Capex, the miter saws, in stock? So I also ended up getting the miter stop fence from Craig. They actually had it in stock in the store too, so I picked one of these up there. And Craig is a pretty good brand. I have their pocket hole jig, obviously, and I think this is going to be a nice addition to the miter fence because this actually has 2 stops, a flip stop and a permanent, kind of like a production stop, I think is what it's called. The way I kind of look at this, to be honest, is if I'm going to be spending all this money and time and effort making a kick-ass miter station, the last thing I want to do is make it not the best it could be. And to be honest, with the other DeWalt saw that I have, there's just too much that I would have to make unique for that specific saw. So the other nice thing about this one, and I think if you know anything about Festool, they like to be above and beyond, but I'm not complaining about that. The thing I really like about this one is that it has a much shorter depth of travel. That way the whole station itself doesn't need to be 34 inches deep. It'll be a fraction of that. Of course, here we also have to try it, don't we? Are you a fan of a homemade meal? Are you a fan of grilling like I am? I recently decided to make a very limited run of end grain cutting boards that are available to all of you guys. Each one of these is 1 inch in thickness, and they all feature a unique pattern with several different wood species from projects that I've built in the past over the years. This is also a good opportunity to replace that bland plastic cutting board that you've been using for way too long, and you can get something made by yours truly. If you're interested, I have a link down in the description below where you can go check them out. Now let's get back to the video. Alright, so it is now the next day. We have a total of 7 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. Total of 9 actually. I already had 2, so I only needed to buy 7. And I have 5 sheets of 1/2 inch plywood as well. And then I got some pieces of walnut, which will be for all of the trim pieces on the drawers and the top of the countertop part. It was a little bit difficult trying to find all of the hardware and trying to source it. A lot of places are out of stock right now, which is really frustrating, but thankfully I was able to find the things that I needed. It wasn't quite what I wanted, but I'm able to make it work, and hopefully it should go well. I got all the SketchUp stuff done. All of the layouts are done on here for the 3/4 and the 1/2 inch plywood, so I'm gonna go ahead and start breaking these sheets down now. Here in California, the Dixie fire is going on right now, so I just opened the door and all the smoke is now rolling in. But thankfully, I have my respirator, so I'll basically be wearing this the whole rest of the day with cutting down the plywood, so shouldn't be an issue, but man, it is smoky. halfway done with cutting through all the sheets. It's actually going pretty quick. I'm only about like an hour into it. So I'm just labeling all the parts based off what they are in SketchUp. So like for example, there is 2A right there, and there's a handful of those right there. Got a very pretty respirator mark going on. That's nice. So the sun is starting to go down, and the smoke pretty much is cleared up for the most part. At least compared to what it was, for sure. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow though, when I come back in, it shouldn't be too bad. So it is now the next day, and I just finished cutting out the last 4 parts of the drawer boxes. I have a huge stack back there of the rest of them, and it's probably at least like 50 or 60 parts. So I'm glad these are finally all cut out. So I'm gonna cut down all of the 1/2-inch plywood now because I still have the 5 sheets over there to cut, and then I'll probably start assembling things, and starting with the base cabinets, which are all of those pieces right there. Check this out, I've gotten pretty proficient with loading up the sheets onto the table saw. With putting the first corner on the edge right here, I'm able to then tilt it on its side like this, and you can see I can do it with just one hand. This is 1/2-inch plywood obviously, but even with 3/4, it's really not that bad. And then I can position it and make the rip, and it's super efficient because I can cut everything in that direction and then break all the parts down further past that. So one of the design features I actually incorporated into this project is a built-in toe kick. So what that kind of means is that on the lower base and partially on the upper cabinets, there's gonna be a notch that is 4 3/4 square. On the first piece I ran through on the underside with the blade going in this direction, it split out the finish right there. So what I ended up doing was putting in kind of a 0 clearance piece right here with just a piece of scrap, and then I backed it off a little bit, and I'm able to run my pieces through and not have any blowout on the underside. This plywood thickness isn't exactly 3/4 of an inch. So with an internal part, like for right here, when I went to size it and put it in, it's about 1/8 of an inch under, which then if I were to screw it all together, it would pull it out of square and mess the whole thing up. So I had to recut a couple of those parts down to like 1/8 of an inch larger. With his being right here in the main workspace, I don't really have any room to build the upper section here. So what I'm first going to do is actually put this against the wall. Grab a piece and show you. So those notches we did earlier are actually going to fit right in there like that. So you can see that open space there with that notch is going to allow us to slide our stop block a lot easier. This is honestly actually pretty hilarious. The color of these two carts is like slightly off. This one's a little bit lighter of a red, and I never knew that. I bought these carts maybe like a year apart. They're both identical from Craftsman. So the next step here is going to be installing all of the drawer glides. So installing all of the drawer glides is actually super duper easy. The first thing you want to do is get a couple of spacers. So with the help of these spacers relative to the deck of the cabinet, this drawer glide will now be nice, square, and level. And what you can do is then just switch over those spacers to the other side, put in the next drawer glide, and then as you work your way down, you could either cut your spacer shorter, or you could just make a new spacer, and it's super duper simple. There's only two other things that you need to make sure you have. Number one being a self-centering drill bit, and then also an adjustable square set at about 3/16 of an inch. And keep in mind, if you're using a different drawer glide other than Blum, you might have it a little bit different, but for me it's about 3/16 of an inch, and that's just set back from the edge of the cabinet. So although this is just going to be sitting here in the shop and me and you guys are the only ones who are going to be seeing it on a regular basis, I think it's important that we also dress it up a little bit and make it look good. So the contrast between the birch plywood and the walnut is something that I think looks really good. And so what we're actually going to have is all of the drawer fronts and the trim be actually wrapped around in walnut. So that means all of these pieces are going to be ripped into strips that are about 3/4 inch square. as you can see, this is a pretty big project, and in the next video I'm hoping to get into a little bit more detail in regards to the fence, and more specifically how I'm actually doing the inset drawers. I'd like to maybe cover that for you guys because I think it'd be beneficial. I personally think inset on drawers and cabinets looks so much cooler and so much better than overlay, and I'd like to share that with you. So in the next video, you can be looking forward to that. If there's anything that you'd like to see specifically in regards to this whole process of building the miter saw station, do let me know down in the comments. And also, if you are in the market for a cutting board, I have those down in the description, like I said earlier in the video, so be sure to also check those out. So thank you guys so much for checking out this video, and I will see you in the next one.